Hey, what's up, everybody? So I'm coming to you today with the year-end top 10s. 2020 year-end top 10s. How they finished the year, how each division finished the year, and going into the new year, what the top 10 looks like, and how it changed. Now, it changed the parameters a little bit, the rules. Instead of a year because of COVID and fighters having to take time off, I extended my deadline to a year and a half. So July 1st of 2019 all the way till December 31st of this year. If you fought within that time frame, you can remain in the top 10. Excuse me. If it's any time before that, then you have to have your next fight scheduled or you drop out of the top 10. So that's the rules going into this. So this one today is going to be numbers 2 to 10 in the 122-pound super bantamweight division. I'm just going to do all 10 guys in this division because it's not too well known of a division, so the top guy doesn't hold too big of a name. I think that goes to guys that deserve their own video and are solidified in their weight class. So let's jump right into it, and we're going to talk about the guys that dropped out from the beginning of the year. And we have 4 that dropped out from 122. The first of those, from highest to lowest based on where they were ranked, is former WBO champion Emmanuel Navarrete. He's 25 years old. He came into the year number 2. He defended his title in February on the Fury Wilder rematch undercard. Took on, I forget the guy's name, but I'll discuss that when I discuss the featherweight division. He got I think it was an 11th round TKO victory to retain his belt again. That was like his 5th or 6th successful defense. After that, he made the choice. He held on to his title for a while and wanted to look like he was going to defend his title again at 126. And then he just decided to move up to defend his title at 122. He decided to move up to 126. So he did that. I think he had a no contest because the fight that he had in June wasn't sponsored. And then he took on a guy named Ruben Villa, I believe in September. It was early October. And he won the title at 126 pounds. So he's the featherweight champion, and that's what he's doing there right now. So that's why he dropped out. The next guy to drop out is 30-year-old undefeated WBC champion emeritus, Ray Vargas. He came in number 3. He didn't fight in 2020, and he was going to, but he ended up breaking a leg in training. So he had to vacate the title and was named champion emeritus. Basically what that means is he can fight the champion, move ahead of a number 1 contender, and fight the champion whenever he wants to. So he could come back, take a tune-up bout if he wants, and then he can cash in his mandatory shot, or he can go straight to a title shot. The champion is Luis Neri right now, won that title that he held, so he can come back and fight him whenever he wants. We'll see when he comes back and what he does. He hasn't fought since July of last year, but injuries, injuries, I keep you out until you decide to come back, because injuries, you don't know how long injuries are going to keep a fighter out. So if it's a known injury and he gives up a world title, then I have to drop him out. That's my rule. The next guy to drop out is 40-year-old former multi-division champion Guillermo Rigondeaux. Rigondeaux came in number 9, and the reason he dropped out is he moved down to 118. He won a secondary title at 118 pounds, and he's competing at 118 pounds now. So that's why he dropped out of it, not because of anything he did. And the last guy to drop out is 32-year-old Franklin Manzanilla, former world title challenger. He entered the year number 10. He ended up fighting 1 time this year, but basically just other guys moved ahead of him. That's why he dropped out. It was nothing, he didn't lose or anything like that. It's just other guys were just more deserving, in my opinion, so I dropped them out. And that was it on the guys that dropped out of the top 10. So now we're going to look at the new top 10 heading into 2021, ending the year 2020. And the new number 10 breaking in for his first time is the undefeated and newly crowned WBO champion, Angelo Leo. He wasn't ranked coming into the year. He's only 26 years old. He's one of the PBC and Mayweather guys. Very talented. He went 1-0 in 2020 Overall, he's 20-0 at 9 knockouts. That one fight was on August 1st. He was supposed to fight Stephen Fulton Jr., another undefeated fighter. And Stephen Fulton, just days before the fight, tested positive for COVID. So Tremaine Williams, another undefeated prospect on the rise, was fighting on the undercard, and they bumped him into the main event. And I actually thought that was going to be a competitive fight, and Angelo Leo put it on him. He pretty much dominated the whole round or the whole fight, and won a clean 12-round unanimous decision to capture the world title, winning his first world title. 2021 could be a really good year for Angelo Leo, but he's running into his toughest fight of his career early on. January 23rd on Fox, I believe. It's on Showtime. He will defend his title against Stephen Fulton Jr., the guy he was supposed to fight in August. So he's going to have his hands full there. I think it's going to be a good one. I'm going out on a limb and saying Stephen Fulton's going to keep that title, and then we'll see what he does, because he's a PBC guy, and this division is PBC heavy, and there are some good options. So we'll see, but he's got to get through Stephen Fulton Jr. first on January 23rd. Next at number 9, dropping 5 spots from number 4, is the former IBF champion TJ Doheny. Now, Doheny entered the year coming off that tough loss to Daniel Roman in their unification bout in April of last year, 2019. But, a lot of people thought, he had come back. I think he got a win or two after that loss, and he headed into March right before the COVID pandemic broke out, and he took on some unknown fighter named Ionut Baluta in what was an 8-rounder, and everybody thought he was going to blow Baluta out the water. And it was just a stay busy fight, and Baluta beat him. Baluta outboxed him, outworked him, and, he took a clean 12-round unanimous decision in that, or 8-round decision, and shocked TJ Doheny in a big-time upset. So Doheny didn't fight the rest of the year. Not sure how he bounces back. His performance against Roman and the fact that he does have a close victory over Ryosuke Iwasa is what's keeping him in the top 10 right now. But he's got to bounce back in 2021. He's got to shake off some rust and then get his ass back in the ring. But I'm not so sure he stays at 122. I think there's a chance he makes a move on 126. So we just got to wait and see what happens. Next, finishing the year, number 8, is contender Ionut Baluta. He is breaking in for his first time. He had a great 2020. Was a qualifier for Super Bantamweight of the Year. He's only 30 years, or he's actually only 27 years old. He's a WBO's number 9 contender, so he's pretty, he's moved up the rankings a little bit, but he's the guy that beat TJ Doheny in March. He shocked him. 8-round unanimous decision. And a lot of people thought that was a fluke, but then he took on prospect David Allen Joyce, who was an Irishman, and he went over to Ireland to fight him, and he kicked his ass and knocked him out in the 3rd round. I mean, this is a guy that's only 14-2, and that was only the 3rd knockout of his career. So he definitely came out of nowhere and scored 2 upsets this year, surprised a lot of people, and he's in the top 10. So we'll see what he gets in 2021, because he really surprised a lot of people. Next at number 7, moving up 1 spot from number 8, is former world title challenger Ronnie Rios. Ronnie Rios didn't fight this year. He was ordered to fight Brandon Figueroa in a mandatory title fight for the WBA regular belt, and that fight never came to fruition. The WBA approved Figueroa to make an optional defense in September, and then I haven't heard anything since about this fight. Rios is 30 years old now. Seems like he's been around for a long time, because he has. He's 32-3, 16 knockouts. He's the WBC's number 3 contender. That's his highest rated thing. I don't know what's going to happen with Ronnie Rios and who he's going to fight, but I hope he comes back and gets in there, and I really hope he gets the fight with Figueroa, but we'll see. Like I said, it's up in the air, and I haven't really heard anything. Next at number 6, and moving up 1 spot from number 7, is the undefeated and reigning WBA regular champion Brandon Figueroa. He entered the year, a lot of people not sure. He was coming off that draw with Julio Ceja on the Wilder Ortiz 2 card in November of last year, and people weren't sure what they were going to see. Then he got ordered to defend his title against Ronnie Rios, as we just said, and he that fight never happened. He actually got an exception to make an optional defense against an unknown fighter, Damian Vasquez. That was on the Charlo Twins pay-per-view undercard. He got a 10th round TKO win in that one. It was somewhat competitive, but not really, as he took over and stopped them. But haven't heard anything about his next fight. We know him and Luis Neri have been talking to each other about possibly going fighting, but I don't see that happening next. I hope he makes a mandatory against Rios. I hope we see that, but we got to wait and see. But he is exciting. Figueroa is 21-0 now with 16 knockouts. So hopefully he can get back in the ring very soon. I'm expecting first quarter of the year, and I'm hoping he gets in there with another top 10 guy. We'll see what happens. Next at number 5, he remains number 5, is former world title challenger Azat Havanassian. Havanassian re-signed with Golden Boy in 2020 and was scheduled to fight, I believe, in March or April on one of the Golden Boy cards, and it got scratched with the coronavirus. He's the WBA's number 1 contender, but he never fought in 2020. I think that was partially because Golden Boy was having issues with the Zone because of the Canelo contract and trying to get things done once boxing got back on track a little bit, and we just never saw Havanassian get back in the ring. So I believe Havanassian is going to be one of the first guys to fight under Golden Boy in 2021. I hope he gets a crack at a world title this year, because to me, he's the boogeyman at 122. This dude is a beast. He comes right at you. He broke Ray Vargas's jaw when they fought. Vargas escaped with a decision, but he's destroyed Ronnie Rios prior to the Vargas fight a couple years ago, and he destroyed Franklin Manzanilla, who almost beat Vargas. He destroyed him in an eliminator last year, and I just can't wait to see him back. I hope he shakes off some rust. I'd like to see him in there against Brandon Figueroa. I'd like to see him in there against super champion Mirajan Akhmadayev in the second half of the year. I actually think there's a good chance of that. This guy is going to be avoided, but if he gets the right shot and the right opportunity, he is going to give whoever he fights hell. Havanassian is the real deal. He's badass. I love that guy. So we'll see. Hopefully we get an announcement on him soon. Next at number 4, moving up one spot from number 5, actually, is Ryosuke Iwasa. He's 30 years old. He's the IBF interim champion. He's the former IBF full champion. He is the mandatory, basically, to the IBF title. He was supposed to fight Mirajan Akhmadayev sometime in 2020, but that fight never happened. And I don't know why. I don't know if it was travel restrictions on Iwasa from Japan. I never heard anything. I know they were talking about them fighting in November on one of the DAZN undercards, but it never happened, and I've heard no news on it. So I believe Iwasa is going to either he's going to shake off some rust and then go into the mandatory fight against Akhmadayev, or he's just going to go straight into the fight with Akhmadayev. I'm leaning towards that one. I think they're going to make that fight. I personally am picking Akhmadayev in that one, but I wouldn't be surprised if Iwasa pulls off the upset and becomes the unified champion. So I really believe either way he's going to get the golden opportunity to win 2 belts, not just one, and sit right at the top of the division. So he's a seasoned veteran and a former champion, and I can't wait to see it happen. So you're going to see him fight for the title in 2021. Count on it. Next finishing the year at number 3 is the former unified champion Daniel Roman. Roman entered the year number 1, so he drops 2 spots. You know, Roman had pretty much the best resume and was deserving of the number 1 spot. He was the unified champ. He beat TJ Doheny last year to unify belts, and he was supposed to fight Mirajan Akhmadayev in a mandatory fight back in September of last year, but he had, I believe it was tendonitis on his elbow or something like that caused that fight to be postponed. And then at the end of January, he returned after a 9-month layoff and took on Akhmadayev. Nobody thought he was going to lose, really, and Akhmadayev surprised them. He won a hard-fought 12-round split decision. Nobody really argued about a robbery. I was considering him coming back, shaking off some rust, and then moving in line to fight the winner of Akhmadayev and Iwasa. And then, surprisingly, he signed with the PBC. And in September, he returned and took on Juan Carlos Payano. And he probably should have lost that fight. He ended up walking away with a controversial 12-round unanimous decision. It was one of my top 5 most controversial fights of 2020. He got the win, but a lot of people didn't like that he got the win. A lot of people thought he lost most of the first 8 rounds, and then he pretty much won like the last 3 or 4 rounds. So, it was tough. Payano was in that one. Payano probably deserved it. I think Roman might have been overlooking him, and I think he might have made that mistake twice. He might have been overlooking Akhmadiev and Payano, and he's currently in line to fight for a world title now. So he's the WBC's number 2 contender. I believe Luis Neri, the WBC champion, is leaning towards fighting him next, and Roman's moment's going to be right there. I don't think he beats Neri, but I think he has an opportunity to beat him, and I still think he's a good, solid fighter. I mean, hell, he was number 1 at the beginning of the year. So we're going to see what happens, but Roman's going to have to turn up the heat in the division again if he wants to climb back to the top. But he's fighting for the PBC now, and this is a PBC-dominated division, so he's going to have the opportunities, maybe against Brandon Figueroa, the regular champ, so we're going to see what happens there. Next, finishing the year number 2 is the undefeated WBC champion, Luis Neri. Now, he wasn't even ranked coming into the year. He's only 26 years old, but he was a champion at Bantamweight, and he moved up. He's 31-0, 24 knockouts. In September, on the Charlo Twins pay-per-view undercard, he challenged for the vacant WBC title against Aaron Alameda, a little-known fighter, and it was for the title that Ray Vargas had to vacate due to injury, and he went right after the title against Alameda, and you know what? A lot of people thought he was going to knock Alameda out. Another guy that I feel he was overlooking his opponent. He ended up walking away with a deserving 12-round unanimous decision, but it wasn't like an impressive one. People weren't highly impressed by it, but he deserved the win. He got the win, and now he holds the title in a second weight class, and we don't know what he's going to do. I mean, there was talks about him and Brandon Figueroa. I don't think those guys are going to get together, not in the first half of the year. I'm leaning towards him fighting Daniel Roman next, but, and I think he beats Roman, but I do think that's a competitive, very good fight. I hope it happens, and I really think he's going to get the opportunity to fight one of the top guys in the division, and we could be looking at the new number 1 by the end of the year. So we'll see what happens. I like Luis Neri. He's solid. He's good. We'll see what happens in 2021 while he fights under the PBC umbrella. He's got an opportunity to take over 122 pounds. But finishing the year number 1 is the undefeated and newly crowned unified super bantamweight world champion, Mirajan Akhmadiev. Akhmadiev entered the year, wasn't even ranked. He was a very good amateur. He's only 26 years old, but he was 7-0 with 5 knockouts coming into the fight, the mandatory title fight against Daniel Roman at the end of January. He was supposed to fight him in September of last year. Roman had to pull out with a tendonitis issue in his elbow, and the fight didn't happen, but it got rescheduled for a DAZN undercard in January. I don't think anybody, myself included, thought Akhmadiev, I believe people thought, like myself, that he could be competitive because he was a good amateur, but I don't think a lot of people thought he was going to beat Roman, and he went out there and he beat him. It was a hard-fought 12-round split decision. It was a close fight, but nobody really argued that he was the better guy, that he did more and he was the better fighter. And, you come out, you beat the top dog in the division, in a wide-open division, you deserve to be number 1, and now he's the unified champion at 122 pounds. Now, he was supposed to make a mandatory defense against former champ Ryosuke Iwasa of Japan. That fight was talked about earlier in the year, then COVID hit, and then it came back up for a DAZN undercard possible in, I believe it was in, was it October or November? Yeah, it was supposed to be in November, and that fight never happened. So I still believe Mirajan is going to defend against Iwasa next, because a lot of guys have, even though they've taken a lot of time off, they're just trying to get back in the ring and they're trying to resume their regular routine and what they were doing. So I do believe they're going to fight next. I do believe it's going to be for the, it will be for the unified both titles. And if he beats Iwasa, which I'm favoring him to do, DAZN and Golden Boy there's not a ton of options now, But maybe they can get a mandatory fight with like a Brandon Figueroa, the regular champion. I think him and Havanassian would be a war, but he's going to want to just try to stay on top since he already got the win over Roman. He's going to want to stay on top. So we'll see what happens. But that's the super bantamweights, the 122-pound super bantamweight top 10, year-end top 10 from True Boxing. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Check it out. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.